Hey everyone, it's Liz Justice here with the Personal Development Network. Back here with step 3 for my 3-step plan for finding joy. As you recall, step 1 was to remove the negative by not complaining. Step 2 is to add positive by finding things to be grateful for every day, preferably frequently throughout the day. And step 3 is to love everyone. And as hippy dippy and lovely as that sounds, it's really difficult to do, especially if you're not used to it. As you get more used to it, it's easier to do, but it's still something that you do have to work to maintain sometimes. First of all, I want to go ahead and kind of define what love is in context of this, because there's different types of love. I'm talking about attachmentless love. So when you talk about love, a lot of times you love somebody, but you have this attachment to them, and that's not really real love. Real love means, imagine if the person you love decides that what they want to do means to be happy, means that they have to be away from you. How are you going to feel about that? Depending on how much of your relationship with that person is love versus attachment will affect how you react. So if you say, yeah, I love somebody, but you're in fear of them leaving you, or you have certain expectations that if they don't fulfill, like if they don't make your breakfast every day, you're not going to love them anymore. That's not real love. I think that's fairly obvious to most people, but some people need that defined for them. Another thing about love is it means you always have empathy for the person, and this is a difficult one in like marriages, because married people annoy each other. It's also difficult with kids because kids annoy you, and you know you love them, but if they're annoying you, then you have lost empathy for them. And yeah, it's hard to have empathy 100% of the time, but the more often you find empathy, the better mood state you will be in. Another thing is, love is more than just a feeling. Love is a verb. If you, another thing for married couples, if you find yourself getting annoyed frequently with your partner, you need to stop and say, what do I need to do to act out the love that I have felt in the past for this person? So love as a verb spawns the feeling of love. So if you do things for the person, your significant other, then that will rekindle any kind of lost love you might have over the years. So remember, love is an action and it's a complete feeling. My process to coming up with this 3-step plan was kind of interesting. I'd read a lot of stuff about not complaining, and I've read a lot of stuff about gratitude, and they were practices that I fully put into place and noticed just a huge lift in my state. And then this 3rd step came around. It was just a beautiful moment that spawned the idea for this 3rd step. I guess you say the idea just came to me. So I was listening to the book Letting Go by David Hawkins, which I promise I will review this weekend. So look for that on Sunday. And I was on the second listening to, I've listened to it 3 times now, and I was on my second time listening to it, and it was around 100 degrees outside, and I was walking outside, and I decided this is over my lunch break at work. We have a really big, beautiful campus that you can walk around on, and I decided to sit on this bench under some shade trees and just kind of pause the book that I was listening to and just reflect. And I just felt, and this is going to sound so strange because it was 100 degrees outside, but I felt a warm sensation come over me, and it's like, how can you feel warm? You were blazing hot. It was 100 degrees. But it was just a warm, comforting, not a, I'm so hot I need to go inside and get in some air conditioning. It was like somebody wrapped like a perfect temperature blanket around you, and you just felt cozy and comfortable. And safe, I guess, is the best way I could describe it. So I've had this feeling, and I had just this kind of epiphany And I realized, I went back, as soon as I had this epiphany, I went right back in, got my notebook out and wrote down this. I'm going to read it to you right now. Everyone is a different permutation of me. I am a different permutation of everyone. True empathy is seeing myself in another person and relating to them as if I were relating to myself. So that thought I had was just a realization that we're all the same being, but we're in different filters. So I am the same as, somebody who's born on the other side of the world as me. We're all from the same source, but I have different biology, different genetics, different childhood experience, different past life experience. All these differences are what make us act different, but we're really from the same source. So that is what really made me realize that everybody deserves my love. I mean, on my way back in to write this down, I was just looking at everybody with whole new eyes, and I was having a hard time not crying. It was a really beautiful experience, and I hope everybody on earth gets to have an experience like that, and even better. I know a lot of people have had better experiences. All right, so why love everyone? If we love our spouse but leave out our in-laws, then we're not loving everyone. So if you're excluding people, that means you're harboring ill will, and that ill will is weighing down on you. It's weighing down on your heart, and it's holding you back from true happiness. So if you make it a point to love everybody, that stuff won't weigh you down. How you do this? How do you, when you're in traffic, and like this morning, I'm on my way to work, and actually multiple people did this to me this morning, and I'm not going any slower than normal. I'm normally kind of a fast driver. Multiple people just decided to get right up on my tailgate, and how am I supposed to stop and say, I love you, person who is riding my ass. This is a really fun experience that we're having together. That's it's hard to get past that, because that's our natural instinct, is self-preservation. Number one, we have our animal reptilian brain comes out and thinks I need to protect myself and make sure I survive. But our greater nature can allow us to say, wow, these people must be really late to work or late to school because it was the first day of school, or, on the way somewhere important, and they're very impatient about it. And I can empathize with that. And empathizing doesn't necessarily mean condoning. It just means understanding where the other person's coming from, and understand that there are factors that don't define that person that are driving them to behave poorly. And also remember, you've made mistakes in driving, so it should be fairly easy to empathize with other people, considering that you probably made a lot of the mistakes you complain about. Unless you're a perfect driver, and in which case I'm sure you're overcharged for insurance. So but it's all facts of life. None of us are perfect. So why can't we have empathy for people when they mess up? Now, the true test of that is, again, I say love everyone. I mean everyone. I mean love murderers. And I know that sounds crazy, but that means that you have this amazing capacity in yourself to forgive. And forgiveness feels so much better than hatred. And hatred towards anybody, and I mean anybody, weighs down on you personally. So why hold on to that? Because somebody did a bad thing and they did something that you find horrendous. Why hold on to hate and let that weigh down on you personally, when you could forgive and find empathy and say, I think what you did was just terrible, but I understand that you're a person who made a bad decision, and that decision was the culmination of the experiences that you've had in your life and possibly past lives that have led to you making terrible decisions. There's a lot of kids that grow up in broken homes and drop out of school, and they're hanging around on the street, and they're in gangs and all that stuff. How do they know any better? They are only looking at survival. How can I take my middle class upbringing and judge them against my upbringing? Like if you're judging somebody, you're judging them against your filters. So I can say, boy, it's really sad what you did, and it's really, I can't condone it, but I can empathize with you as a fellow human being and say that I love you. Even, I can empathize with you as a fellow human being and say I love you. And not only does that make that other person realize there is love out there to be had, but it also brings you up. This is going to be my final point about love. You will notice that lack of love is probably the only cause for true strife that humans have. If kids grow up without love, they often grow up to be criminals. Now, some of them overcome it, but it's usually because they found a mentor or somebody at an early enough age, whether it be teenage years or something, where they were able to be saved from that life where they felt like all life was about human suffering. How do I act to avoid the most human suffering? People with personality disorders usually had a pretty rough childhood where they didn't experience love. So it's so critical to how we act as human beings to feel love in our lives. So if you withhold it, you're harming another person. So love everybody, and as you empathize with everybody, little things, big things, whatever, you'll notice that you feel lifted up. And you know what? You're also helping raise the average spirits of the world by loving everybody, because not only you're making yourself feel better, but you're making whoever you've sent love to feel better too. So you're raising the world average. And I think that, my personal belief system, I think that impacts everybody on this earth. So very important to do. But yeah, love everybody, have empathy for people, and you will realize how much lighter you feel. And you will definitely, the more you practice this, you will definitely feel joy frequently. And you will feel joy frequently just for giving that love to people. All right, so give it a try and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get that notification when my next video on David Hawkins' Letting Go comes out. And see you next time. Bye.